Welcome back. Now that we've successfully created the Synapse Workspace, in this session I'm going to give you a quick introduction to the Synapse Workspace. So let's go over to the search and search for Azure Synapse Analytics. And that will show you all the Synapse Workspaces you've got access to. In my case, I've got one, which is Learn Synapse Step by Step WS, is the one that we created in the last session. So let's click on that one and that will open up the workspace. In this workspace, we've got a few areas. On the left-hand side menu, we've got a few options. And on the top, you've got some quick shortcut buttons, and then you've got Essentials with some key bits of information about the service. And you've got a link to the Synapse Studio here and some documentation. And underneath that, you've got the Analytics pools, so you've got the SQL pools, Spark pools, and Explorer pools. Let's start from the top. Here, we got the option to create a dedicated pool or a Spark pool or a Data Explorer pool. You just have to click on them and then that'll give you the option to create those pools. In this case, actually, this will allow us to create a dedicated SQL pool. We'll be creating one of them later on. But let's close that for now. Similarly, you can do the same thing for Spark pool as well as the Data Explorer pool, which is still in preview. And you've got the option here to reset the SQL admin password. So this is the user that we specified when we created the Synapse Workspace, and then you've got an option to delete that entire workspace. And under Essentials, you've got key bits of information about the service. So things like the primary ADLS Gen 2 account and the file system, which is the container listed here, and the SQL admin username, which is Synapse admin that we specified while we created the Synapse Workspace. All of that information is here. But one key bit of information you may come back here is the dedicated SQL endpoint and the serverless SQL endpoint. So if you want to connect to the SQL endpoint from another application such as Azure Data Studio or SSMS, you will need that information so you can come and grab it from here. Underneath that, you've got the option to open the Synapse Studio or read documentation, and then you will see all the pools being listed. In our case, we haven't created any pools ourselves, but as we said previously, Synapse Workspace by default comes with a serverless SQL pool. So that's what you're seeing here, which is a built-in serverless SQL pool, which is always available for you. And when you create a Spark pool or a Data Explorer pool, they'll be listed here. A dedicated SQL pool will also be listed underneath the SQL pools option here. Let's now go through some of the menu options here. One of them is the access control. So if you want to manage roles and access, then you would come into IAM, then you would do similar to you do with any other Azure services. So the next one I want to show you is the Microsoft Entra ID, which is SQL Active Directory admin. This is not the same user admin we saw previously. This is the Active Directory admin at the moment that is set to the creator, which is me. But if you want to say another admin or remove admin from here, you can do that. And the pools, we've already seen them. We've had shortcuts on the top to create new SQL pool or Spark pool or Data Explorer pool. You can do that here as well. So you come in here, click on the SQL pool. As I said previously, we only got a built-in pool, which is the serverless pool, but if you want to create a new one, you would just click on New and then that would give you the same option. As with everything in Azure, you will see many of these things being available in different places as options. Next, we got a section on security. One thing I want to show you is how to define firewall rules. Let's go to networking. If you remember from the last lesson where we said we want to allow access from any public IP address, that's why we have a rule here called Allow All, which allows access from any IP address. As we said before, this is okay for a dev workspace, but you wouldn't want to do that for a production workspace. So what you would want to do is to delete this rule. You can come over here and then delete, and then you want to specify a specific IP addresses from which you want access to be allowed. Then we got monitoring. Under monitoring, you can do standard things like actually look at metrics. You can create alerts. For example, if you go to metrics because we are in Synapse, we would be able to look at activity runs ended, pipeline runs ended, and trigger runs ended, and things like that. And also, if you're not happy with the dashboards being created here and you want to do your own bespoke, you can go to diagnostic settings and push all of those metrics into things like Log Analytics Workspace or a storage account or Event Hub, and you can consume that data in things like Power BI and then create beautiful dashboards. Let me get back into the workspace, and I think that's everything here which are important to know. That's the end of this session, and I'll see you in the next one.